When I was 10 years old, my parents thought it would be a good idea to take the whole family on a ferry boat in a hurricane. My dad had made the reservations weeks, maybe months before. And so despite the fact that the rain was sheeting down and our rental car was dripping and the windshield wipers were not keeping up, we were driving toward the hurricane and toward the ferry terminal. My dad was gripping the wheel. My mom had that kind of tense silence that I knew I shouldn't say a word, even though I personally was terrified, and I didn't have to complain because my sister was sitting in the drip. So we finally get to the ferry terminal in North Sydney, Nova Scotia. And we get there, the television's on with news. The news tells us that a number of these roads and bridges that we had just driven over no longer existed. And my parents still think it's a good idea to put the car on a boat that's going to go across 100 miles of ocean in this storm. I had my doubts, but I was 10, so I didn't have any say in the matter. So we had to wait at the ferry terminal in the waiting area because the ferry boat we were supposed to take was a 30-car ferry boat, and it was too small to handle the ocean. So we were going to go on the 60-car ferry boat, which at this point was also too small to go on the ocean. We had to wait for the waves to settle. So we're sitting there. It's supposed to be an overnight trip. We've got sleeping berths booked. And we're sitting there in the ferry station. We, of course, all have books to read, my family, being a bunch of booky sort of people. And I'm actually reading an Archie comic book that I had just picked up and hadn't been able to read in the car because I was too terrified. So I'm sitting there reading. I'm 10 years old, and I realize that there's a couple of hippies, what we called hairy individuals, sitting over across from us. Their long beards, their long hair, their tattered jeans, and they keep looking over at me. Not my sister, not my brother, not my parents, but me. And my sister and I notice this and start to get a little weirded out because even at 10, I know that grown men aren't supposed to be staring at 10-year-old girls. And my sister gets worried enough, she tells my mom. So now my mom's on alert as well. I try to tune it all out and finish reading my comic book, and I close it and put it on my lap, and one of these guys gets up and comes over and is like, can we borrow your comic book? We don't have anything to read. I was like, sure. He's like, thanks, man. Takes it back over, and they're reading it together. So my sister and I are cracking up about this, but my mom doesn't think it's funny. At any rate, we finally get on the boat, we drive on, and the cars go on the lower deck. And as we're going up the stairs to the passenger deck, this wave washes over the car deck and washes over all the cars. And my parents still think this is a good idea. There's an elevator that actually goes up to the deck that we're going to be staying on, and as we go up the elevator, it's going like this in the elevator shaft because there's so much rocking motion in the boat. And my dad tries to pretend this is all just some great adventure and even takes the time to explain to me the different motions of the ship. When you get knocked from the side, it's a roll, and when you get knocked off course, it's a yaw, and when you go head on into the waves and go like that, that's the pitch. And it just, I don't care. I just want to be out of there. Now, they've gotten 2 rooms, one that sleeps 4 and one that sleeps 2, because there are 5 of us. And usually when we do this, my sister's old enough to babysit, so my sister and brother and I would usually share a room, and my parents would get a room to themselves. But this night, my mom says, I want you to stay with us. I'm like, okay, why? And she said, well, I'm worried about you getting seasick, because you're always the one that gets car sick. And I think, okay, there's really no point in arguing, because once my mom says, this is it, this is it. So I stay in the room with them, and I try to sleep, but the motion of the ship is going all night, and I pretend I'm asleep, and I hear my mom tell my dad that she's worried that these guys got my trust and that I might be in danger. And I think, I thought they were okay. I mean, they were stupid and didn't bring anything to read, but other than that. And so I really had to reassess my own sense of the situation. But we made it safely across, and when we got off the ship at the other port, I was the only one who was not seasick. And I guess that risk was worth taking because we enjoyed Newfoundland and our crossing back was really smooth. And now the situation, the roles are reversed, and I'm the one that has to assess the risk for my dad and how long he can stay in his home and what the dangers are that he's going to pitch head first down the stairs. Thank you.